Welcome back to the WBL. What is today? What is today, Orlando?
It's April 10th, 2045 in the game.
Awesome. So we got Lando here in the studio with us today, calling in from the OC. The OC. LA. How's the weather down there this time of year?
It's not bad today. Somewhere around 70, like it is every day.
Fuck.
Gotta get my smug weather shout out early. So
smug. Oh man. Okay, so tell me about. Looks like in the first week of the season, Amsterdam and Istanbul are on top of the NL North. Any surprises there to you?
Not particularly. Considering, the schedules. Istanbul got to play Lisbon and Dublin in their first.
Oh, okay.
Their first two series. And
kinda
Lisbon's rotation
like
is just
terrible.
So.
Yeah. Kind of like Buffalo, talking about that 6-0 start.
Yeah.
You know, who'd you play, Buffalo? So. In Amsterdam, OU has gone into his ritual. My team sucks. I'm no good. Stuff. So, and we know where this is going to end up with Amsterdam in another championship.
Right. They both got to play actually Dublin and Lisbon, and so I mean, obviously it's the first week. You can't judge any team at this point, but.
Right.
Amsterdam will be there. He'll be a top 4 team. He'll make the playoffs. Who knows if he'll actually win if he does trade away a lot of his guys, but he's just got too much depth on that team to drop all the way down to the bottom half.
Oh, I agree. I think he would win regular season wise if he had maybe half the skilled players he's got on his roster right now, and the other half just league average players.
Right.
He's got his rotation. His rotation cranked out, if I counted right, 39 innings out of the 45 innings that he played. His rotation, his starting 5 cranked out 39 innings. So the least of them went 7 innings in their starts. So his bullpen's going to have it easy this year if he keeps up like that. Of course, like you said, first week, small sample size.
Yeah, he's actually got a good young rotation still, and depends if he deals all those guys away or not. I mean,
right.
He talked about moving Okada, but he's got other guys he traded for recently that are young and will be above average for sure. So.
For sure. What's your staying with the North League? What's your prognostication? Do you see are the Hammers going to surpass Amsterdam this year?
We'd like to, but it seems like every year he takes the league back in the second half. And last year is in the last series of the year, so we've gotten closer. But I think it'll be, the top 3 will be pretty much the same as last year with Vegas and Amsterdam and Helsingborg.
Vegas made some strong off-season moves this year.
They did. If they can stay healthy, that's the big thing there, especially because there's, he relies a lot on Nikeshi, and he's kind of the cog in that offense,
That's
and
right.
That guy can't ever stay on the field. So if he can get a full season out of him, I mean, he could win the division pretty easily.
Well, the thing about Vegas is that locker room is cursed, man. They never go through a month without a serious injury.
Yeah,
just something weird. It's the curse.
I don't think they have a trainer. I think that's probably the issue.
Probably so.
But that 4th spot, I don't know. It could be it's up in the air between Seoul and I would say you guys, Moscow, are probably the 2, and Istanbul. I think Istanbul will hang. For quite a while. I think this is their breakout year. Their young guys finally have enough. They've had enough time in the big leagues to make a impact.
I think so. They have that starting rotation that is young, but they had a year of seasoning last year. They got thrown into the fire early, and I agree. They're going to be. I kind of think Istanbul is going to be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, he's got as good a lineup as anyone, and
He
the
does.
rotation is
Hmm.
is more than adequate. So
Yeah, it is. If he gets just a little bit of just a smackerel of defense, he'll be set.
yeah, and it looks like he's kind of focused on that a little more this
Hmm.
year. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm kind of worried about Soul actually. I've been a big fan of the moves that Carl has made in earlier seasons, but in the past season or so, I'm not so sure, man. I kind of see Soul falling off a little bit. He's got, the core of that team is fantastic, but any team that's got Noda, is going to be, is going to be right in there. But I don't know if I see him. Last year I projected him, I think, in the top four, but I don't know if I see him up in the top four this year.
Yeah, I don't. It kind of depends on how a bunch of things play out. That fourth spot, like I said, is kind of just a toss up, and
Hmm.
it'll probably be whoever stays the most healthy.
Right.
But
Well, speaking
he's
of
kind of
which,
extended that. Like his
hmm
team is good, and he's just keeps making moves to kind of extend that window just to
hmm
try to get into the playoffs.
right.
So I don't know. Hopefully he can get through and
hmm
take that fourth spot. And
Well, I mean, talking about staying healthy, I mean, he just lost Aldred Yakums out of his, I guess it's his bullpen. I'm not sure. He's listed as a middle reliever. Um,
yeah, I
and
guess
he's
that Beanpole acquisition came right on time
right
for him
on time.
because
Hmm.
that's a huge blow to the bullpen.
Yeah. I kind of thought, I mean, Beanpole, what do you pay, $10 million a year for Beanpole?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a closer, but he's a good closer.
Hey, hold on for a second here. Sorry, someone just knocked at my door.
No worries. No worries. Domino's Pizza. It's it's Dominique Pizza. That's what it is. Dominique Garnett. He's in the pizza. But you didn't know that, did you? Yeah, it's Dominique. You didn't know Dominique is Dominique Pizza. You,
Right.
you didn't know that you bought a pizza delivery guy on your team there. So yeah, Dominique Garnett. He's always been after the pizza, man. He loves his pizza, and that's one reason he was just not happy in Moscow. There just wasn't any good pizza in Moscow, not to his liking. So that's right. He says Helsingborg's got better pizza. So anyway, and not to mention, you can buy a lot of pizza with what is it, 24 million?
Yeah, yeah. That move was an interesting move on my part
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't necessarily need him.
You already got a full outfield, man.
I got a full outfield, and I got Carrillo last year, but I saw Garnett there, and he's just such an impact player, and it was kind of both me getting a player and also keeping him from going to mostly Vegas because they're my biggest competition at this
Right.
point of, you know, in
So
the
it was a preemptive strike more so than an acquisition that you needed.
it was a little of both. I mean, he's
Mm-hmm.
obviously going to start for me, and he makes, my fourth outfielder. Carrillo is probably one of the better ones in the league. He can play the defense anywhere of the three outfield positions, and he's got a solid bat. So it makes it very easy for me to rest players
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh
stuff like
heck yeah.
that. So
Mm-hmm.
there'll be a lot of at bats spread around in that outfield, but
Right.
trying to keep the Alchemist healthy is the big
Mm-hmm.
thing there because he's slow and
Would you
not.
call him the key to your offense?
He has been in the past, but I think it's kind of shifting to Britton and Weber.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still young, and I mean I think he's only 25, and I feel like he's been in the league for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he does work at the plate, that's for sure.
He's 26. He's a righty. Good night. Weren't you dangling him as a potential trade option a season or two ago?
Yeah, I was because he kind of doesn't, because of his defense, he doesn't necessarily have a place,
Mm-hmm.
and he's fine in left field, with Weber out there in center because he's a great center fielder.
Mm-hmm.
But my DH spot has been filled. I filled that with Leafson,
Mm-hmm.
that I acquired from Cairo. to bring home a Swedish player. So Henny I thought he could be a chip to trade. There wasn't a lot of interest out there, and I wasn't trying to just dump him because he doesn't make a whole lot of money for the caliber player he is. So
right. He's a good.
I'm gonna keep him
buy
around.
he's a good deal for his salary.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm always open to dealing guys, and if someone comes calling and has a good deal, then I'll move them.
I got a question for you. We were competitors back in the UBL days. You had the fighting Favres, and I had the fighting Gookstas, the the parrot heads, as a GM, over time you start to study your the moves that the other GMs make, and you kind of develop a sense for their for what they value. And my sense for what you valued at Madison was the big bats, the big boppers. And it looks to me like you have moved into more of a balanced approach with Helsingborg. Not that you didn't have a good rotation in Madison, but it seems like you're emphasizing that more these days. Have you made changes in the way you construct your team?
A little bit. I mean, with Madison, I was kind of blessed with a decent farm of pitchers, so I didn't really have to acquire them. And I took a lot of risks on fragile guys. Like, that was kind of my, what I went after in the market. Anyone that was fragile, people were scared to pick them up, and I would just pick all those fragile guys up and then replace one fragile guy with another one when they went down. So that was kind of my strategy back then. And, now I would say people are a little less risk averse with the fragile players. So there doesn't seem to be as many like great fragile players, which is a difference too. I think the injuries make them a lot worse, a lot quicker. So my whole thing, the reason I went so heavy with the pitching, at least, and went after Naka, was because I just couldn't push through a playoff series. So I wanted to get a really good ace to get me through the playoffs. Whereas with the Favres and the UBL, I had solid pitching, and I had a lot more luck in the playoffs than I did in the WBL. I'll just put it that way. Yeah. That team just had a way to win in the playoffs. I'd have pitchers that would hit, go 3 for 4 in games and knock guys out. So it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I was. What you were talking about, the fragile players, and I'm just kind of looking down through them. Pulled up a little. Went to show all players, list all players by, and added injury status to it. And there's some good players who have fragile or wrecked injury status, but you're right, they do seem to fall off in a real hurry. I'm looking at Fady Pietnitsky, for instance. Of course, he's 35, and of course he's got the age working against him too. But Nobuhito Haida, the guy I had in the Moscow rotation, who was so great for me for several years, he's now listed as wrecked. And he's not a bad pitcher. He's got that 65 movement, which that's my go-to pitching rating. I'm not a big stuff guy. I kind of like the movement more. He's still got the movement, but he's falling off a cliff in a hurry. It seems like. Yeah,
he's also older too.
Yeah, he is 36. He is.
Yeah.
Do you see are the demographics different in the WBL compared to the UBL?
As far as nationality and age of success and stuff like that.
I guess what I'm thinking about is age. Yeah.
I think OOTP has it's just weird. I think guys just tend to fall off kind of out of nowhere, and I don't think that's really changed. And then you'll have a few guys that'll just be able to play forever. But it seems like when guys do lose their stuff, that it's just in one season. It's not very gradual.
Right. the tabletop happens in a hurry, just falling right off the tabletop.
Yeah, that's way
Mm-hmm.
more.
Mm-hmm.
That happens way more often than the gradual. You'll have some guys that are gradual, but it's not nearly as common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll tell you what, there are a few guys in the league, the Iron Men, who, man, they just keep going. I think Nico is now an Iron Man, and I better verify that. Pitching, Nico, yeah,
He
Nico,
is, yeah.
Iron Man, yeah. So there are some pitchers in the league that just it seems to be. I guess there are other players besides pitchers, but pitchers especially seem to eventually develop Iron Man status if they stay healthy
hmm
long enough, right?
Yeah, and if they grab that Iron Man status, those guys, can stick around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Waz, on Helsingborg, the dinosaur, he'll probably be
Mm-hmm.
around a while. He's got that Iron Man status, and he's kind of been the same pitcher,
Mm-hmm.
for 10 years, and he'll probably be able to do it for 8 more. So
Yeah. Was Dinosaur's a good-looking pitcher. 30 years old. Making 14 million though.
yeah,
Um.
it's his last year on that
Mhm.
contract, so he'll probably be gone.
Mm.
So come get him.
Was. Yep. Loner. Come get him. So as long as I've been playing this game OOTP and playing with the UBL and now the WBL, OU has made some really good moves over the years, and he's turned me into a believer in Adderall. One of these days, I'm just going to go get me some Adderall and start getting serious about this stuff. So, what do you think has been the key to Amsterdam's dynastic success? How would you, we know it's not cheat codes, uh, and because we know what happens to you when you run the playoffs. So, what has been Amsterdam's long-lasting key to putting this juggernaut together?
I don't want to blame the Adderall, but he's definitely devoted the most time to this game, by far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's really like dialed in his patterns on player development. So
Mm-hmm.
the biggest plus he has is he's never scared to trade anyone. So he will move anyone on his team at any time. Doesn't matter. They could be 25,
Mm-hmm.
just had their best years.
Mm-hmm.
They could have team control. It doesn't really matter, and he'll move them for a group of players that he really likes,
Right.
and those guys tend to pan out more than others. He also,
That's a real good point. He's fearless. He is fearless in his trade. You're right about that.
yeah, and he built up a farm system to make it able for him to do that. He always had someone he could replace someone with. So
And he kind of got a little bit of a head start on us in the WBL because he inherited a team that had found some great international free agents out there, or minor league free agents rather.
yeah, they
And,
did. His scouts found some guys, and then he was also probably the first one that was not scared to drop a ton of cash in IFA, and he bought a couple guys too. So
Right. He got some big players. Right. That's
yeah.
true. That's true.
But trades, that's how he builds. Just trades and draft. He likes to pile up those draft picks and take some risks. So
That's right. I've said this publicly a number of times. I am probably the league's worst drafter, and I really don't enjoy the whole draft process that much. Probably because I suck at it. But in fact, I had the most staggering first round draft pick failure ever. I drafted a guy named Marshall Arbita, who was the second best shortstop in the 2043 draft, I think it was, and I got him because I needed a shortstop really bad, and thinking that the second best shortstop should be decent, and he's just busted so bad, man. Oh, it's just horrible. He's busted so bad. I'm afraid to I don't even want to release him.
yeah,
But the draft some years it seems to be pretty decent, especially in the top half of the first round. And some years, man, I just don't know about it. It's some years I'd just rather, I'd rather trade major leaguers and minor leaguers than get involved in the draft. So
Yeah, I would say I'm probably in the minority and side with you on the draft. It's not where I like to spend my time on the game. I would prefer to get, players when I trade players, because I can see those players in the games and not make a guess on them.
Right.
I haven't had that many successful draft picks unless the draft has been pretty deep. I've also traded away a lot of my first rounders to get players, so it's that firsthand, obviously.
You traded a bunch of them to me, that's for sure. That's for sure.
So I've traded a bunch to you. I traded some to OC, and they kind of go all over the place. But Weber was probably my last great draft pick. And last year I actually did something similar to what you were describing. I traded up to get Vaughn from Osick, and he had a big injury in his first year in professional ball, and hasn't quite rebounded. So, and he's old. He's already 23.
Oh,
so
wow. What level is he playing at?
I have him in Double-A now, but he had a solid bat. It's kind of like 50 all the way down, and now it's things are jumping down below 40s even. So
man.
He's still got a glove, so maybe he'll turn it around. He's still got decent home run power, so if he can have that glove, the speed, and the home run power, he could be useful still to me. But he might not be an everyday guy anymore.
Yeah, he might be in that next wave of sort of utility middle infielders that see a lot of everyday use, but maybe not the star power, but a guy who's not going to hurt you at the plate.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, he looks a lot better than Marshall Arbita. I'm here to tell you. In fact, while I'm explaining how bad this guy is, I'll go ahead and pull him up in my. Here we go. Yeah, here he is, folks. A 45 contact and a 45 eye and a 25 home run. Yep, drafted the 116 pick in the 2043 draft. That's Oh man. I learned something important from that. Always go with the best player available, because you don't know what your team's going to need in a few years. And Arbita has a oblique strain. He's out for 5. Maybe he will retire.
Just put you out of your misery with him.
Maybe he'll retire. Yes.
Yeah, I tend to go for the best player too. I'll choose, kind of if it's a coin flip on a pitcher or a hitter, I'll go with whatever's weak in my system. But otherwise, I kind of don't go after positions. I just assume that I'll probably trade the guy if I'm heavy in that position. So.
Yep. True. Good point. So in the North League, you're looking at Amsterdam, Helga, and Vegas, and toss-up of Istanbul, Seoul, or Moscow.
Yeah, I'll go on record with Istanbul for number 4.
Yeah,
why not?
I agree with that. I don't want to root against my team, but our hitting woes are well known, and I think Istanbul carries the 4th spot. Down in the South League, looks like both Buffalo and Cairo got off to a jump this year. Who do you project in the South League?
It's hard to bet against Lloyd at this point. He's put together a really solid team, and he's made moves to just make them that much better to get through the playoffs. Bringing in Sanchez was a pretty smart move, I think, on his part. That's a solid bat and a good defender. And then bringing in Mason, of course, gives him that top 3 pitchers that are very good. So.
Fontenot, Mason, and Robles. Yeah, I see Mason over there in that Buffalo blue and gray, and it just doesn't look as good on him as that Moscow red and black, man. And I get letters from Mason. He writes me every month, and he tells me how much he misses Moscow, and he sends me death threats. Yeah, he doesn't like the fact that he had to move back to the States. He was a big fan of the borscht, and yeah, he just
And why not?
And why not? I know, right? And this lake effect snow that he gets in Buffalo, he says it's about to drive him insane. So I'm sorry, Brick Mason, but I had to unlock some value there, and but yeah, he provides a great top half of the road. Heck, Lloyd's rotation from top to bottom is really it's not second to anybody. I mean, I think I would rather have the False Bay rotation, maybe your rotation, maybe OU's rotation, Lloyd's rotation. That'd almost be a toss-up, although any rotation with Kasib would have to come first. But
yeah, he doesn't really have a weak spot in that rotation.
He doesn't. That's right. And he's got 3 left-handers. He got 3 southpaws in the rotation, which is, I think it's big in this league because we have so many lefty smashers that having a lefty guy on the mound can help to neutralize that.
Yeah, having more lefties than righties is probably an advantage for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So aside from Buffalo, who do you like?
I like Cairo's bats. They always have the bats. And he's got a good 1 through 3 as well. So if he can make it to the playoffs, he could battle with Buffalo pretty easily. He's getting up there in age, but he's doesn't seem to be slowing down enough to matter. So
right. He's rated as wrecked in his injury rating, but that just hasn't bothered him one iota.
No, he made 27 starts again last year, which is if you can get that from a wrecked guy, you're doing all right. So
Cairo's got a great 1 through 3. If he can get to the playoffs, he can live off that 1 through 3. Do you think? Do you look for him to acquire another top of the rotation arm this year?
I don't know. I think if I remember right, he may have had been pinched on the finances. So maybe I don't know if he can take on an arm if it's expensive. But Lee and Tang are both solid. I don't think he'll necessarily need a playoff pitcher. Maybe he needs, I don't know, maybe he needs some depth since he lost I can't remember his name from last year. Had his career-ending injury. The guy he actually got him from me back in the day, but he was one of their better pitchers. He had a career ender last year, but I think he'll be fine. He should settle in at second, and then after that in the South, I think it's kind of a crapshoot for those last 2 spots. False Bay's rotation is just so good that they should probably sneak in there at number 4, but JD is talking about how they're not good enough to do it. I don't know, but you could score 3 runs a game and win more games than you lose with that rotation.
Yes, absolutely. If Kasib is on the mound, all you need is 1 run.
Yep.
So what about Australia? Do you think Australia sneaks in?
Australia is pretty balanced, but they're kind of old. So I don't know. I think Leach will make some moves. He's always fairly active at the deadline, so I'm kind of wait and see. Bringing in Hong, I think was a good move for him. Brings in some offense immediately.
Lord, did you see Hong? Hong hitting .545.
Yeah, he had a killer first week. So he got him. He got Fabian too as a free agent, who's a solid reliever. So he could be there. Kabul, they could make a run.
Kabul is about to turn the corner.
Yeah,
they are really darn close, and man, they got some outstanding talent on that team.
Yeah, they could be a second half. They could make a second half run and sneak in. I think once their guys get some experience. And then Buenos, I think, always kind of lingers around. He's a lot like Australia, where he has, Osik has a really well-rounded team, and they hover around 500. And if they go on a little bit of a run, they can jump into the playoffs. So
yeah, a lot of role players on that team.
Yep.
Yeah, I like what Osik does. He gets he puts the players in the positions they need to be in to give him the maximum return. He's 2 Tomas Gonzalez hitting 421. Didier Mouton, Gray Mouton hitting 400. A few guys like that in the lineup can
He's got some
get you
young
right
bats
there.
that are finally coming up and hopefully will produce. And he acquired Charles, the Mad Hatter,
Yep.
in the off season, which is
Mhm.
he'll be a really good DH bat, which I know
Oh,
he's
yeah.
been looking for some power in the lineup. So I
Mhm.
think he'll be okay. I think he'll be around 500. And like I said, make a run. You can get in with just over 500.
Baton Rouge won a surprising 2 games the first in the first sim. I'm like, man, that's like 20% of everything they. It's like
Yeah, they may have hit their month quota on
I
wins
know,
already.
right? I know, and they beat Australia. Those 2 wins came against Australia.
Yeah,
And in fact, they bludgeoned Australia 19-6 in 2 games. And then they got turned around and took a hammering.
then they
16
got
to
bludgeoned
nothing. Right,
themselves. Yeah.
right.
So
So this is interesting.
the,
Baton
the
Rouge.
the South's always they're always kind of a roll of the dice.
Hmm.
They beat up on each other.
Hmm. Oh goodness. Baton Rouge doesn't even have its lineup set.
No, Real needs to get in
Mhm.
there and take care of stuff, I'm sure. But
Hmm. Looks like he's got his pitching set. His pitching looks, at least the positions are filled, but the
filled with someone.
filled with someone with bodies, but the
Yeah.
lineups themselves are got lots of holes in them. So Buffalo, Cairo, possibly, and then Australia and False Bay, with the possibility of a little Buenos or a little Kabul making a late run.
Yeah, I'll say Buffalo, Cairo, False Bay, and Buenos are my 4.
All right, very good. Well, there you have it, straight from the Helga's mouth. Well, folks, thanks for listening. We're going to pull this to an end here. We're at 32 minutes, so looking forward to a 2045 season, and we're going to have some interesting races. Will Amsterdam finally fall off the throne? Somebody going to knock them off the throne? Is Buffalo going to actually win a postseason series this year? Cairo, are they going to have a resurgence back to their dominance of earlier years? We're going to find out. Thanks a bunch, Lando. We'll talk to you again, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.